Okay, thank you for asking. So my name is Amarjeet Kumar. I am having 7.2 years of experience in Java backend. So the technology stack which I have experience in Java with a Spring Boot, microservices, a Spring Cloud component as a backend. Some of the exposures in front end as a Angular 9. Also, I have a good experience in AWS Cloud Services. Coming for the database, I have good experience in Mongo and SQL. Mongo NoSQL and SQL Oracle. Apart from this, all the DevOps tools which I am using for the development like Apache, Maven, Jenkins, Jira, GitHub, ELK, Splunk and all, while we are developing our application or monitoring or testing the application. So in that cases, multiple tools I am using. Yeah, coming for the domain, I have good experience in the banking, telecom, e-commerce and health insurance. So currently I'm working for the health insurance project. So there we have migrating or implementing the Spring Boot project. So my role and responsibility in this project is like this project is nothing but a portal where we are providing a customer to take insurance, whatever the insurance he want. Once he will take the insurance, so that orders will be created, and after that we will process the order. So that processing will take multiple layer, like will schedule the order, and then after that will go for the particular stores, and that stores will check all the payments, how much payments is calculated for that. After that we'll have a redemptions amount will be there, like how much promo code will be applied for this particular customer. Once you have done the payment, then how notifications will come in this pictures, and how as customer will get notified through the email, SMS and all. So that like that will have a then generate the reports and all like that. So these things will be have a multiple microservices internally, it will be called, while we are providing this facility to the customer. So like we are following here agile. So whatever the agile will have a sprint task. So in that sprint, whatever the task will be defined in this Jira, we need to work. So mostly my role and responsibility here, like developing a microservices based on the Spring Boot. So my on daily basis we are developing new services, and some of the cases what will happen, like we have a third party call will be there in that, so that we can provide a much facility to the customer with the different portals. So in that cases we'll have a multiple communications by using REST template and Kafka, which I'm implementing there. Some of the cases will have already data or microservices has developed. We need to enhance, or some features we need to be enabled, that we are developing. Apart from this, also we'll have a deployment. So whatever the changes we are doing, that will go for the multiple deployment scenario. So once it will go for the production deployment, in that cases we need to available on the call. We can check whatever the changes I have done, that all are confirm or proper or not. Just for the verifications and all, we can check all the configurations, request response, and the logs, message and all. So while deployed this changes, then we have to check all the responses coming proper and all. If not, then what are the logs printed is proper or not. So these things we have to check. Yeah, on daily basis I am doing this type of work.
So have you worked on SonarQube?
Yeah, SonarQube I use for this testing purpose, like while we have writing any test cases and all. In that cases we used SonarQube. SonarQube is a tools which is used to check all the code qualities, how much code coverage, what are the code smells are there, what are the unused line, unused test cases which is not handling, what are the unused line, unused codes are there. So that things we have in SonarQube. So there are multiple features are there. Through that, once you integrated your SonarQube in your particular microservices, then you can check all those things.
So can you tell me what do you mean by code quality and code coverage?
Yeah, code qualities means like code coverage, like how much whatever the test, whatever the Java class file you have written, for that how much test, how much method you cover. So the for that method, like positive negative scenarios and all, how much code coverage code you cover, like particular method has been covered with all the scenarios, all the test cases which are that. So that will be shown like as a percentage, like have covered 10%, 20% and 50%. In the particular method we have a multiple business or internal lines are there, so that is covering or not. If you are covering, then that will be counted as a some percentage in that. So that is a code coverage. And code quality, like what type of like logic we have to implement while we are writing our code. So either instead of for loop, or maybe some of the loops we are using, so either we can iterate this method, or maybe we can create some common method, or generic type of declaration and method we can create. We can whatever these things are there, like static we are defining, so how we are calling database fetching, how we are calling. So these things we have a code quality will be considered.
So can you tell me how to configure SonarQube?
Yeah, SonarQube we can configure while you are, if you want to SonarQube configure, first you have a SonarQube which need to be installed in your machine, or in local, or if you have a server there, you have installed the SonarQube. And after that, the SonarQube will provide this URL, so that you can run on that. And then if you are writing any microservices, in that microservices you can add this URL and all, like so these all are the details which will be application.yaml property, that you have to mention the SonarQube details, credentials and all, so that if you will run your applications, those applications, and also you can add dependency in your application of a Spring Boot microservices application. Once you you will run this, and then your SonarQube should be also run in your machine, like a local. So that SonarQube server will have a start and stop features are there you can start, and once you will run, then you can see all the microservice, whatever the microservices you configure the SonarQube, so that microservices will show. In that we have a drop down and all, so there we can check like what are the code coverages particular microservices, which method is showing like code smell and all, so these things will be there.
So coming into microservice side, okay. So do you know what is 12 app factor in microservices?
Yeah, 12 app factor is a microservices is a way while we are developing a microservice based architectures, like a code base is there, config is there, port binding is there, and port binding is there, and database communications. Like what we are doing, what are the steps we are following to develop in particular microservices. For that we'll have a multiple step, like what type of codes you are adding in the microservices, how you are doing the configuration, either you have a config server or maybe in local server you are calling, how you are binding the port, how you are handling the load balancers, and how you are doing the database communications call, and there are multiple things are there in 12 factor, so that we can develop applications.
So do you know what is circuit breaker design pattern, Saga design pattern, and how to implement them?
Yes, so there are multiple design patterns we have. So in microservices mostly we'll have a four type of design pattern in that, like a database related, and communications, like gateway related, and then security related, and then transactions related, that will be covered in database only, and then other. So Saga circuit breaker is nothing but like if we have a multiple microservices are there, if a microservice will communicate with B microservice, so some of the cases B microservices is down and A microservice is dependent with B microservices, so B microservice will not able to send the response as per this request which is coming from A microservice. So what will happen, we have to enable the features of circuit breaker. So that circuit breaker we have to, first of all we have a strict circuit breaker dependency we have to add. After that we'll add the configuration in application.yaml, and while we are writing a B class microservices, so the service implementation class we are writing a method. So that method, if this service B microservice is not able to call or invoke the particular method, instead of that particular method we need to have a circuit breaker method. So that circuit breaker method will have options, like they will call this method and then send it to the A microservice. Our service is down, please try after some time, like that. So we can handle this way. And Saga is mostly used for the handling the transactions, so that is used for the transaction management system. So we'll have a orchestration, so we can manage orchestration transactions. Like we'll have a multiple microservices are there, all services is independent for each other. Like suppose if you are going for the restaurant, so that restaurant microservices will initiate the order through the Zomato, and after that you call the restaurant microservice will get the order, and they will initiate the order orders, and after that they will assign to the restaurant, or particular which restaurant has been this order has initiated, either some of ABC's restaurant. So that ABC restaurant microservices will call. In that order has been processed, then it will go for the particular delivery person. So that delivery persons will have other microservices, so they will invoke this particular services, and then once delivery, once payment will be success, then user will be delivered, like that. So we have I think in this 4 microservices are there. So all microservices will have a transactions like handling, so they have to create a transaction T1, T2, T3 and T4. So once delivery person will deliver this order, then final commit will happen for this microservices, like our customer has been delivered, and then transactions will be committed. In that situation, if any other microservices has failed, like a delivery was unable to deliver, or maybe payment was unable to happen due to some network issue, or maybe restaurant has not accepted this is orders, or maybe order has been failed due to some reason, or so in that cases the transactions will be revoked. So how it will be happen? So Saga will come in these pictures, and they have managed this all. So orchestrations, if anything will be happen, the final transactions will be rolled back for all the microservices.
So can you tell me what is REST template, service registry?
Yeah, REST template and service registry. REST template is used for while we need to communicate as a async communication, sorry, synchronous communication with one API to another API, or one microservice, or in one network to another client, one client to another client. In that cases we can go for REST services or REST API. So that REST API will have a multiple HTTP method will be there, either get, post, put, deletes and all, so that easily you can invoke the data, you can insert the data, fetch the data, call the data, update the data and all. And other you told you service registry. Service registry is a part of Eureka service, while we are creating a multiple microservices and we are deploying in this any clouds or any server related. So directly we can't provide access from this API or third party to access my microservices. So in that cases we are registering with a service registry. So service registry is a Eureka service registry. There we will provide all the service name as a unique some predefined name, so that users or maybe client can understand this microservice related for payment, this microservice related for order, this microservice related for checkouts and all, like that. So these are proper naming conventions we can mention, and there internally they will be invoked in our microservices. So that Eureka service registry will have a dashboard. There we can see all the microservices combined, what type of microservices is running, what are the failed, and is microservices is happening anything, so that we can already track in a single way all the microservices. And while the client is sending any request, so that will go for the API gateway. That API gateway is a Joule and all, so that Joule will have a configure to the our service registry. So directly instead of that customer interaction with this Eureka service, directly it will go for the Joule, and Joule will transfer this request for the microservices to the service registry, and service registry will go for the particular microservices. So our application will be secure, and our applications easily will be understandable by client. Easily we can track the application with the dashboard, because all the services tools they are providing a dashboard, through that we can monitor the services and all. If anything will be down, immediately we can take it and all. And yeah, so these things are service registry.
Now, coming into a Spring Boot side, okay, so do you know what is a stereotype annotation in a Spring Boot?
Yeah, there are multiple stereotype annotation in a Spring Boot, like @component, @service, @controller, repository is there. So these all are the stereotype annotations are there. So for all the annotations is defined with the different structure. If you have mentioned @controller, like that class behave like we'll have a REST template call will be there. Either we'll have a multiple method like get, post, put, deletes will be worked. If you have mentioned @service annotation, so that stereotype annotations will behave like it's a business logic, where we will fetch the detail from the controller and provide some business idea, like what type of business we will perform, and then we'll communicate with the database. If you have mentioned @repository annotation stereotype, then it will be behave like we'll have to fetch database communications will be there, so that we can fetch the detail from the database, or maybe get update the operations, like we can perform some of the CRUD operations in that.
So, do you know what is the difference between controller and REST controller in a Spring Boot?
Yeah, controller is annotated with the stereotype annotation, which is on class level. So as already I mentioned, and REST controller is a part of controller plus request mapping. If you want a this, if you are mentioning as a request controller, so it's a features of both annotations, controller plus request mapping. So that while request mapping we are doing, then we have a get post put delete method which we are performing. So instead of that, directly we can mention REST controller, so that two annotated annotation internally it will work, controller and request map.
So, what is bean life cycle method?
Bean lifecycle method is in Spring framework, so that while we are creating any object, so that or that beans will be created, bean will be initialized, and after that will be created, and then bean will process this executions like whatever the business requirements and all, and then that will be decrease or destroy that. So mostly we'll have a init method will be called init, and then the process and then destroy in the bean life cycle.
So, do you know what is a Spring Security, Spring Data JPA, Spring Cloud?
Yes, so a Spring Security will have a multiple things like will have a JWT is there, UAA token is there, and a Spring Web Security adapter is there. Through that we can secure our application while we are communicating with the other party, other third party applications and all, or maybe in other microservice internal. So in that cases we can go for a Spring Security, either JWT token, UAA token, or OAuth 2 or anything. But if you have a client which is logged in with your website or maybe your application, in that cases we will authorize or authenticate what type of permissions or role we will need to define for the particular users, either admin and the users, or what type of modules they can access. In that cases we can go for enable web security adapter. So we'll have a multiple options are there. And a Spring Cloud component is a way where we can implement by using a Spring Cloud component, so that like we have a Eureka service REST, API gateway Joule, Histrix, circuit breaker, ribbons, so load balancers, cloud config servers. So these things if you are using, so that we can, our applications will be managed or track easily by using component. So we can use this Spring Cloud component and in give this particular features, so that our applications will be managed easily. And a Spring Data JPA, while is a specification of Hibernate, while we are calling or fetching the detail from the database, in that cases we are using either Hibernate or a Spring Data JPA. So that Spring Data JPA is a specification which have an inbuilt multiple methods are there, like find all. So you can use multiple implementations Spring Data JPA if while you are creating any CRUD interface. In that you can extend either CRUD operations or maybe other operations, so that will have a multiple internal method will be there, like a find all, find, delete by ID, fetch, this fetch alls and all. So these type of things in build are there. So instead of that we are calling an all Hibernate, directly we can call this method and we can execute our process or implementation business logic.
Now, coming into JUnit side, okay.
Hmm.
So, can you tell me how you write JUnit test cases? How you configure your any JUnit framework? Can you please explain about them?
Yeah. So mostly which I used, like JUnit 5 I use, so that is Mockito framework. So while we are writing any JUnit, so first of all you can add the dependency in JUnit pom.xml, so that JUnit 5 dependency I used. After that there are multiple way to call the JUnit. First is by using JSON base, other is by using, you can write the test cases. In that you hard coded, like you can create an object, and in that you can set the value of the particular method which you want to execute the test cases. And others will have a on network also we can do by using XML or JSON base. So these things. So while we are writing this, first of all you have to add the dependency, and after that you can add this configuration in pom.xml which is required, like what are things you need to add it in this JUnit, and add the dependency for the coverage, like you want to as a SonarQube or other, we have a Eclima and all are there. So through that also you can check the coverage, right case, and yeah. So after that you can go for the test cases file. So that test cases will have a test cases and resource. So that resource will have a test cases related resource application file. There you can mention if you want add the JSONs and all, so that you have to put it in the resource file structures, and then you can write the methods and all. So in that also we'll have a multiple annotations are there, like we have a Mockitos, so power and spy mock and all, so that and while we are writing this test cases, we'll have to test the positive negative scenarios and all. So for that, before afters and all will be called.
So how we configure Mockito in Java application?
Mockito, yeah. So add the just you can add the dependency of Mockito in the pom.xml, and after that you can write this. Once you will add the dependency, the load library files will be respective library file will be loaded in your local or maybe central repository. So through that you can add the features. So directly then you can create a class, and that in class we can write the test cases for the particular business or service classes, and there you can, like, you can mention as a mock bean or power mock and all, so these things.
So what is the difference between JUnit 4 and JUnit 5?
uh, JUnit 4 was there, like in this before JUnit 4 will have a like a many things was there, like this instead of like we have a like some of the annotations was there, like at the rate before, at the rate after, at the rate equals, at the rate at the rate asserts, so that we can assert these classes, is this true false and all. So that things was there in the JUnit 4. JUnit 5, what will happen in that cases, if you have a mockito, so that mock directly you can mock the data while we are creating or we are calling this in JUnit 4. We what we have a like based on this pattern design patterns, we can call this we can create a builder class, factory class, and then we can like handle the test cases and all. But in instead of that JUnit 5, we can directly mock the data, and then through the mock we can call the JSON file also, like if you have huge amount of data is there. So for that already you have developed the business, and you are calling from the JSON. So instead of that, directly you can handle or call the JSON file here by using mock the JSON file, and then we can process the data. If you have a private data and all, so we will do that power mock and all.
Now coming into Maven side, okay. So can you tell me what is Maven and how to build a Java application using Maven?
Yeah, Maven is a build tool which is used for this build your application. So Maven have also life cycle, so that will be execute while you are writing any services or any applications, microservices. So for that you need to build the application. So once you have created a Java file, so that will be converted in the class file. That class file will be create a packaging, and after that packaging will be validated all the classes, and then after that the test cases will be validated. Is the test cases validated, then they will create a build file that will be either jar var or jar var. So once the jar will be created based on the respective directory, then that will be placed as a jar. So Maven build lifecycle, how it will be happen, because you have a three type of repository, and the central, local, and the server. So so if you have mentioned in pom.xml particular dependency, based on that they will add the jar, and according to that they will create a jar file or var file for the particular application.
Now coming into Java side, okay. So have you worked on Java 8?
uh, Java 8, yeah.
Java 8, yeah. Okay. So can you tell me what is the optional class and what are the method and optional class and how to implement them?
Optional is used to Java 8 features which is used to handle the null pointer exception. Like suppose if users is not providing any if you are not handling any nullable or null, or if users is passing some null or maybe empty things and all. So that before that optional we are getting some null pointer exception. So in that cases we need to handle this type of exceptions instead of that. So we have a optional. So optional will have a multiple classes are there, nullable is nullable, and empty is empty and all. So that they will check the data is empty or null, then they will handle internally like.
So what is method reference, functional interface, and how to implement them?
Yeah, method reference and functional interface. Functional interface is the interface which is used for the Java 8, and before also was there some of the predefined functional interface. Like functional interface have a single abstract method which will be available in this particular interface. If you want to create a functional interface, custom functional interface, then create a class, interface. In that you can annotate at the functional interface, and there will have a single abstract method you have to mention. Apart from this, if you want to add a static or default, you can add there. And already Java have a serializable, clonable, and all. It has, there is a functional interface which is there. And coming for this what you told, functional interface, other what you told, like method reference.
How
Yeah,
to implement them?
yeah, method
How
reference.
to,
Yeah, so
yeah.
method reference is used for like while we are processing or iterating multiple data in that, like we have like 10,000 of employee record are there. If you want to fetch the particular employee record which salary is greater than 5,000 and all, so for that we are doing some iterations. After that we'll write this employee iteration. So in that cases, if you have calling multiples of executions in that, so instead of that iterations and all, no, after iterations you are printing always, like you are doing system.out println for this employee details and all. So instead of that, directly we can use a method reference, so that method reference will insert all this data.
Okay. So can you tell me what is a stream API and how to implement them?
A Steam API is a way in Java 8 to execute your business process while using Lambda functions, so Lambda expressions. So Steam API have a multiple type of methods are there, like intermediate operator, intermediate and terminal operate there. So through that, like we have a find all, get, delete, and then Steam map, flat map, collectors. uh, so through that we can process the data by using lambda expression. Inside that easily we can process the data with the less line of code and develop the applications.
Okay. So can you tell me what is the difference between intermediate and terminal operation in a stream API, and what is map and flat map in a stream API?
Yeah, so map is used for single data processing. Like if you have an employee record in you, in that you want to process the data, so that will have a map. And if you have a list of employee record which is in the particular university or maybe in the particular college, and you want to execute the data for the all the list of employee who all are available in the particular college in LIT, and for that you want average marks or something. So in that cases we can go for map. And this is the scenario where we can use map or flat map. And intermediate and terminal. Yeah, so intermediate and terminal, like if you are processing some data and while using a Steam API, so we'll have a two operations like intermediate and terminal. So intermediate and terminal, like if you have like a Steam map, flat map, collectors and all, these all are the intermediate operations which will be worked internally. And terminal operations will have a conditional checks and all, like filters, and then uh, like uh, sortings and all. So that will be the part of terminal operation.
Okay. So can you tell me what is executor service?
Executor service is the part of thread which will be while we are calling multiple thread at a time, so that we'll have a executor framework which will be execute. So that executors will have a multiple cases are there, either as a synchronize, asynchronous, maybe we'll have a deadlock situations, or maybe like a fork join, or maybe you have a round robin. Based on this, algorithms will be performed. So executors will execute this, it will be process the thread as a synchronized way or asynchronized.
So what is map and filter?
Map and filter in Java, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so map filters is used for this, check the conditions, either so that they will give a only true or false. If you are checking particular condition, if employee salary is less than or greater than 5,000, so that if yes or no, so that will boolean conditions will be provided by that. So we can say predicate, so that filter is a predicate which will be provided as a true or false. So only one input will be there is so based on that they will give the input and output. And map is used to convert, while you want to transfer the data from one to another form, that is called a map. So if employee department employees details are there, and now you want to convert as a employee which salary is 5,000, then in through the map you are converting the particular data, and then collectors will have a collect the data by using whatever the format you want, either to list or maybe to map, to sets and all, sorry, to list and all.
So can you tell me what is TreeMap?
TreeMap is a part of map interface, so that in map we'll have a TreeMap is a class which is have a map interface. So map will insert the data based on the key and value. So TreeMap we used in this ascending order, while we will perform a ascending order or sorted. So tree map will perform based on the red black tree. So we'll have a root left and right. So how internally it will call, first they will check the root, so what is the mid of the particular element. If they will get it this root, then root will have a less item will be sorted in this left node, in right item means greater than item will be sorted in the right node. So based on that they are sorting the data, and that will be as a, like we can say, ascending orders. And also we'll have a tree map will not allowed any null value and all.
So can you tell me what is the difference between aggregation and composition concept in Java?
Yeah, aggregation and compositions mostly is used for to provider, we need to communicate with multiple my services. So what are the weak entity and a strong entity will be there, aggregations and compositions. Suppose we have a parent class and multiple child classes are there. So in that child classes will have a some of the attribute is required, some of the attribute is not required. In that cases we can say we can define as a aggregation and composition. So compositions will defined as a weak entity, aggregation will defined as a strong entity. So suppose if you have a you have mentioned uh, motorcycle as a class, so that is a parent class. In that parent class will have a multiples, engine is a subclass, and the indicators and all will have other subclasses and all. So motorcycle need a engines, because without engines they can't work. So that is called, we can say, a strong entity. So it will be there in the segregation. And composition is a weak entity, like indicator. Suppose if indicator is not there, we can run through the engine. So that will be defined as a weak entity, composition. So these things will be there in the multiple classes which need to be communicated each other. So we will define which is the main measures things which is implement first, and then others, like that. So aggregation,
Okay.
composition will come in
So
this picture.
can you please share your screen?
Yeah, just a minute. Yeah, are you able to see my screen now?
Yeah. So can you please open your whiteboard?
Whiteboard
whiteboard
where?
icon. Yeah.
In Google?
No, no, in Zoom app.
Okay. Where's whiteboard? Where's whiteboard?
Record. See, there's record button. Okay, and then whiteboard.
Record button and whiteboard. Like just a minute. Actually, I'm not able to see here. Recording is there and optimized for video clip, uh, participate chat, reaction setting modes.
Then share, then record, then whiteboard.
Are you able to see my screen? I have already shared, right?
Yeah, yeah, I can see your screen.
Okay, so I'm not able to see here in whiteboard anywhere.
Okay,
View.
so please open your Eclipse. Okay.
Notepad is fine right now.
Okay, so please open your notepad.
Yeah.
Okay. So please write string s is equal to in double quote
Okay.
ram
What?
ram ram ram
Yeah.
space Rohan
Again, same new string.
ram space Rohan
Oh, okay.
space Rahul
Okay.
space Siddharth. Okay. So you need to find out which word is having maximum characters using stream API method. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Which
So
word
please solve.
having
So
maximum characters?
yeah. For example, Siddharth. Siddharth is having maximum characters.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So please solve using a stream API method.
Okay. Filter.